Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, you guys wanted us to take a look at reality itself.
Reality itself.
Yeah, so, how it works, and more importantly, how to win at it.
Okay.
And for this one, we're diving into the advice of Speaker, who he's kind of got this blend of like spirituality and, I don't know, like a real get-ahead mentality.
Mm.
So imagine if you can, a self-help guru who really isn't afraid to kind of tell it like it is.
Okay, so kind of like a straight talking, no nonsense, get things done kind of approach to spirituality.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I'm curious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, so mission for today is to extract the core concepts from this guy's material, see if we can separate the hype from the substance,
Yeah.
and, ultimately see if his rules for winning at reality actually, hold up.
All right, let's do it.
So this speaker, he starts off by claiming that 98% of people are actually losing at the game of reality.
98%. That's a pretty high percentage.
It is.
What's his reasoning behind that?
So he thinks most of us are approaching life like it's this constant battle,
Okay.
struggling against the odds. And he really believes that's where we're going wrong.
Interesting. So instead of seeing life as a struggle, how does he suggest we approach it?
So his whole thing is that if we shift our perception, if we start seeing life as a game instead of a battle,
Okay.
we can begin to understand the rules
Hmm.
and maybe even learn how to, bend them a little in our favor.
Okay. So like mastering the rules of chess rather than just randomly moving pieces around.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I like that.
So his first rule really emphasizes that point. He says, and I quote, "Reality is not a physical game."
Wait a minute. How can reality not be physical? I mean, we're experiencing it with our senses right now.
He acknowledges the physical world, of course,
Yeah.
but he's saying the real game, the one that really determines our outcomes, it's played on a mental and spiritual level.
Ah, okay. So he's going deeper than just the surface level of things. He's talking about the underlying energy and consciousness that shapes our reality.
He's arguing that most people, they spend all their time and energy on taking physical actions, right?
Working hard, hustling,
Yeah, but they're not addressing their underlying beliefs.
the thoughts that might be holding them back.
Exactly. And he uses this phrase, it's a little strange at first, but you need to be rich before you can be rich.
Okay, I can see how that might sound a bit paradoxical.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's all about embodying that state
Right.
mentally before it actually manifests physically.
Ah, so this is where we start to see connections to things like the law of attraction and manifestation, right?
Exactly.
It's the idea that our thoughts and beliefs really do have the power to create our reality.
And he dives even deeper into, like, the power of the subconscious mind.
Okay, now that's getting really interesting. The subconscious is such a mysterious and powerful part of ourselves,
He describes it like a giant computer. It's just constantly processing information,
shaping our reality based on the programs that we've installed.
which, in this case, are our beliefs and habits.
And the thing is, we're not always aware of these programs, right?
All right.
We might have these limiting beliefs that we've inherited from our childhood, from past experiences, and they can sabotage our efforts without us even realizing it.
And that leads us to his second rule. It's a bit of a mind bender. You make the rules.
Okay, hold on a second. You make the rules. How can we possibly make the rules of reality? I mean, can we defy gravity or bend time just by changing our minds?
He's not talking about superpowers, not in a literal sense, at least.
Okay.
He's saying the truths that we accept, the rules we live by.
Right.
They're often just ideas that we've been conditioned to believe. And by changing those ideas, questioning those beliefs, we can actually change our experience of reality.
There's a lot to unpack there. It really challenges the idea that there's one objective reality out there.
Right.
It suggests that our perception plays a much bigger role than we might realize.
And this is where the power of the subconscious comes back into play. He argues that if our subconscious mind accepts a belief as true, it'll filter our perception
Our experiences.
to confirm that belief.
So if we believe we're not good enough,
Or we're destined to fail, we'll probably find evidence to support those beliefs.
yeah, even if that evidence is incomplete or biased, our subconscious will find a way to make it fit the narrative we've created.
He uses this really vivid image. He says, if the bricks you're arranging in your mind build a shed, you won't magically end up in a palace.
I love that. It's such a powerful metaphor.
It is. He's basically saying that we have to be mindful of the beliefs we're holding on to, the stories we're telling ourselves.
Because they're shaping our reality.
Because those internal blueprints, they become our external reality.
It highlights the importance of becoming aware of our subconscious programming and really taking steps to rewrite those programs if they're not serving us.
Exactly. And that leads us to his third rule, which is probably the most paradoxical. You can't have what you need.
Wait, you can't have what you need. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, does it?
If we need something, shouldn't we strive to get it? I mean, that's basic survival instinct.
This is where things get really interesting, because he's talking about the role of importance and how desperately needing something can actually create a barrier.
A barrier to actually achieving it.
Like the more we cling to something, the more it eludes our grasp.
From a psychological perspective, that actually makes a lot of sense. You know, attachment and desperation can create resistance.
Yeah.
When we're so fixated on a specific outcome, we create this tension, this anxiety,
Yeah.
and that can actually repel the very thing that we want.
And he actually brings up the idea of manifesting here. He says a lot of people go about it the wrong way.
How so?
They try to force things to happen,
Try to control every little detail.
and that blocks the natural flow of energy.
So it's not about giving up on our desires or becoming passive.
Right.
It's more about finding that balance between intention and surrender.
Yeah. Being clear about what we want, but also open to the possibility that, the universe might have a different path in mind.
A different way of getting us there.
Mhm.
It's about letting go of that tight grip of control, trusting in a larger process.
He uses a great example of a client who was totally fixated on hitting a specific revenue goal
Okay.
for his business. And this guy's working himself to the bone, but the more he focuses on that number, the further away it seems.
Almost like he's creating a wall between himself and his goal.
He's creating this intense need, and it's like blocking him.
And it's not just about business goals, is it?
Yeah.
It could be anything that we desperately need or crave in life.
Absolutely.
Relationships, for example. The more we cling to someone out of fear or insecurity, the more likely we are to actually push them away.
Yeah, it's like that desperation creates a low-frequency vibration, and it repels what we want. Which brings us to his next rule. The strongest frequency wins. This one gets a little metaphysical.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this frequency idea.
So he believes we're all emitting these frequencies based on our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. And the person who can hold the strongest frequency, the most unwavering conviction in their desired reality, that's the one who shapes their experience. Like our inner world creates our outer world.
So just to clarify for our listeners, when he talks about frequency, he's referring to like an energetic vibration, right? Something we emit, like a signal that attracts similar vibrations back to us.
Exactly. And it ties into a lot of spiritual traditions, but it also has some parallels in like quantum physics.
Interesting. I'm seeing how this could get really fascinating.
He even uses the analogy of a radio transmitter.
Okay.
So you want to tune into a specific station, you adjust the dial to the right frequency, right?
Right.
He says it's the same with reality. You want abundance, love, success, whatever it is, you need to align your internal frequency with those things.
And I imagine that takes a lot of focus and discipline to maintain that frequency, especially when life throws us curveballs.
He talks about doubt and fear weakening the frequency.
Creating that gap between our desires and their actual manifestation.
And he uses Jeff Bezos as an example.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The early days of Amazon. Remember when they were losing money?
Oh, absolutely. Wall Street was scratching their heads, didn't understand the business model.
They were defying all the rules of conventional business. But Bezos had this unwavering vision, deep belief in the potential of Amazon. He maintained that strong frequency even when all signs pointed to failure.
And look at what happened. Amazon became one of the most successful companies in history.
It's pretty amazing. It shows how powerful our internal state can be.
It's not about ignoring reality, right? It's
Yeah.
about cultivating an inner strength that lets us stay focused even when things get tough.
And that brings us to his final rule, which is maybe the most controversial.
Hmm.
Reality doesn't care if you're nice.
Ooh, now that's a bold statement. I mean, aren't we taught that good things happen to good people? Is he saying we should abandon our morals and become ruthless?
No, not at all. He's challenging the idea that there's some kind of cosmic scorecard where good deeds equal rewards and bad deeds equal punishment.
So he's saying it's not about morality.
No, it's about energy. It's about frequency.
Okay. So the universe responds to the vibes we're putting out, not to our human ideas of good and bad.
And he actually says that sometimes people we perceive as bad actually have really strong self-concepts.
And an unshakable belief in themselves.
And that's why they seem to get ahead. Not because they're evil, but because they have that confidence and they just go after what they want.
That's an important distinction to make. He's not advocating for unethical behavior, is he?
No.
He's simply pointing out that the universe operates on its own set of laws.
Right. And those laws are based on energy. So our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, that's what determines the energy we emit.
So if we're constantly doubting ourselves, feeling unworthy, or fearing failure, we're sending out that low-frequency signal that just attracts more of the same.
It all comes back to that. So it's not about being nice in the traditional sense, right?
Yeah. Right. It's not about being a pushover or a people pleaser.
It's about self-worth.
Believing in ourselves and our capabilities.
And that confidence will actually radiate outwards.
Attracting opportunities that align with that higher frequency.
So what's standing out to you so far? What are your initial thoughts on all this?
I'm really fascinated by this idea of frequency and how our internal state can actually influence the external world. It's a concept that's been around for centuries. But this speaker brings a very practical, almost scientific approach to it.
Me too. It reminds us that we have more power than we realize to shape our reality.
Absolutely. And it all starts with becoming aware of those subconscious programs that might be holding us back.
If we want to change our reality, we need to change our frequency.
Hmm.
And that begins with shifting our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've gone through these 5 kind of unconventional rules for, winning reality.
Mm.
And they've definitely given us some things to think about.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there.
But how do we actually apply this in our own lives?
Right. That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
It's one thing to understand these concepts intellectually.
Right.
Actually putting them into practice and seeing them work, that's a whole other challenge.
So if we're really playing this mental and spiritual game, like he says, what are the practical steps we can take?
Yeah, where do we even begin?
I mean, he emphasizes awareness as the first step, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming conscious of the beliefs and thoughts and emotions that are shaping our reality right now. It's like taking inventory of our inner world.
He even suggests, literally writing down the rules that we've created for ourselves.
Oh, interesting.
Like the unwritten beliefs about what's possible.
What we deserve.
What we're capable of.
Bringing those subconscious programs to the surface.
And then asking ourselves, are these rules actually serving us?
Right. Are they aligned with the reality that we want to create?
If not, maybe it's time to rewrite them.
I like that.
He compares it to, a computer program. If you're running on outdated software, the system is going to be slow, glitchy, prone to crashes.
Right.
And he says it's the same with our minds, right?
Yeah.
If we're operating from limiting beliefs, we're not going to reach our full potential.
Makes sense. So how do we go about rewriting those programs? What are some practical techniques?
He talks about the importance of repetition and really feeling it, like emotional conviction. So it's not enough to just intellectually understand a belief. You need to really embody it.
Feel it in your bones.
Yeah. And he suggests using things like affirmations, visualizations.
Gratitude practices.
All those things can help to reprogram your subconscious mind.
It's about consistently feeding our minds with those positive messages.
Until they become your new default setting.
And I imagine that takes patience, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, these old programs, they've been running for a long time.
It can take time to install new ones.
And an effort.
But he also emphasizes action. So it's not enough to just sit around visualizing your dream life. You got to take steps.
Even small ones. To move in that direction.
And this is where his rule about the strongest frequency really comes into play. It's about having that unshakable belief in yourself.
Yeah.
That you can achieve your goals even when things get tough.
It's about developing resilience, not letting setbacks derail us.
He uses the analogy of a seed.
Okay.
You plant a seed, and if you keep digging it up to check on it,
You're disrupting the process.
you're going to disrupt the process.
Yeah.
You need to trust that the seed has everything it needs to grow. And it's the same with our dreams.
Trust the process.
Plant the seed, nurture it with positive thoughts and actions, and then, trust that it will bloom in its own time.
So bringing it back to his most controversial rule, reality doesn't care if you're nice.
Right?
How do we reconcile that with the idea of, being a good person, living ethically?
I think it's about understanding that real strength doesn't come from being passive or self-sacrificing. It comes from knowing your own worth, setting boundaries, not letting yourself be taken advantage of.
So he's not saying we should be ruthless or disregard our morals.
No.
It's more about empowering ourselves.
Right. To stand up for ourselves, go after what we want. Don't let fear or self-doubt hold us back.
It's about owning our power and not apologizing for our desires.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to just say that this speaker's approach, it might not be for everyone,
Yeah, not everyone's going to resonate with these ideas.
but I think the key is to just take what works for you, what feels aligned with your values.
Absolutely. We each have to find our own path.
Be your own experimenter. Try things out. See what helps you create the reality that you desire.
And remember, we are ultimately the creators of our own reality.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. And those choices will shape our experience of the world.
So, if reality really doesn't care about our niceness, as the speaker suggests, maybe the question to ask ourselves is this: what kind of energy are we putting out into the world? What frequency are we broadcasting?
That's a great question for all of us to consider.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating the reality you desire. We'll see you next time.